Good afternoon. You guys don't look as good as you did the week before. I don't know what it is. It's like poor clothing. I just don't. You guys don't look the same. But it was tough game. A lot of things that we'd like to go back and change, but you don't have a deletion button in our business. So you have to take it, and we'll grow from it. We'll play better. It was good seeing J-Mo starting to get back on track and us finding him and him making some plays there, and in the end, it'll be very helpful for us, but not quite good enough. Things that we can clean up, things that we will clean up, and can't wait to get back on the football field. Just can't wait to get back on the grass.
The target share has been pretty high this year. It kind of seemed like it was a little limited to 5 guys last week. Was that more of the flow of the game or something the Chiefs took away?
Well, I just thought it was more of kind of the flow of the game, and then also is directly connected to some of the matchups and then progressional reads as we have him. I thought he did a good job. He's doing a fantastic job, and his progressions are, you wouldn't have almost 80% in completions. We just got to do a little bit more with those when we get them. We got to create a little bit more after the catch. We'll do a better job of that. All of us in the backfield, tight ends, receivers, we'll try to maximize our opportunities and create explosives with run after the catch, not just down the field ball. So we got to do a better job of that. But collectively, it was one of those games where the ball was kind of going to certain people. You have those 2 or 3 games a year, so I wouldn't look too much into it.
As Saint after the game about the yards after the catch, because I think 45 yards total for him. When you looked at the film, what did you see that they were able to do to take away that aspect of the game?
Well, there really were it was doubles coming from a lot of positions with Saint, which is good for a lot of other people. And then collectively, once we hurt them with the other people, all that will settle down. So they did a pretty good job of not only doubling from the safety position, but doubling from the inside backer position, which we immediately tried to counter and start working, with some other people in those situations. We just did not make enough plays in the critical situations to extend drives. If we would have extended a couple of drives here and there by making plays, we had a lot of good things that we could have gotten to just because of the way that they were trying to take away Saint. A lot of times when Saint was catching and making plays there, he catching in an area where usually he can catch, and JG can put the ball on a separate shoulder or opposite shoulder, I should say, and it would separate him from the defenders. Well, now he's putting it on the opposite shoulder, and it's still with the double team. The double team now is coming from that same area. He's throwing away from a defender. Now we're getting tackled in situations where we wouldn't likely get tackled.
With a guy like Saint, who's, he has a drop or two a year, right? He's so dependable, and he knows exactly what happened the other day. Do you still have to, what do you say to him, if anything? Is there a coaching point for, that 4th down play? How do you even address it if you have to with?
You address it. You always address it because you have to go to the technique, the fundamentals. That's my job, to teach him the technique and fundamentals. Was there something we could have done differently? Maybe. But have I seen him make that catch, 1,000 times? Absolutely. But first thing I look at is how can I change him fundamentally right there to make it a little bit easier, awareness of what down it was in the situation. Was that a hook slide catch opportunity, or was it just like he was doing, taking his eyes down, pinkies below the thumbs right there? He just, was just one of those plays that we like to have back. But like I said earlier, man, this isn't a game where, a guy can, be typing a lot of times like I type things out or I draw things out on the machine, and if it's not right, I can just hit the delete button and redraw it. You don't get the redraw. You don't get to hit the delete button. We get these opportunities. He knows he has to make the play. I think he's pretty anxious to get on the practice field today.
You were able to get Isaac more reps in this game just because Khalif was healing, but no targets. What is kind of the struggle there for a young player when they're playing a ton of reps but not really maybe part of the target progression?
I think first of all, it's tough as a young player to play. It kind of goes back to the same conversation that we had about, when you're making this roster. When you're making this roster, you can't be, you have to look at it with really wide vision because you have so many of these upper echelon players, especially these upper echelon talented guys that we have on offense. And you don't put them in the same, but like this first, second, third, fourth, or fifth in a progression necessarily, but you do have to understand that, we do have guys that have made plays consistently here. You have St. Brown, you have J-Mo, you have Gibbs, you have David Montgomery, you have LaPorta. So when you're working through some of this, sometimes you do have to continue to go and continue to gain trust. He's doing a great job. There's nothing that he's done. It just didn't happen last week, and we got to continue to try to make it happen. But we also do have a lot of guys being targeted that are exceptional players as well. So he's going to have to continue to work. His deal is he's going to have to compete with the guys on the field, not only against the guys on the other side. So just continue to work at what he's doing. He'll continue to grow. This is not a situation where it's like he's at the back or he's in the backfield where we can turn around and hand it to him or call his number and a lot of these things. So we're working to get him some more touches, but we're also working to get other people touches as well.
Can you speak to, your experience trying to find the workload balance with Gibbs and Montgomery, and obviously it's a little bit more weighted towards Gibbs, obviously, right now.
I hadn't even noticed. I don't, is it not the exact same? No, I'm just messing with you. All right. Yeah, I think Coach addressed it. I'm just messing with you. I think Coach addressed it already. There's definitely, there's things that we can do to make sure that kind of evens up, and I think you'll start to see a little bit more of those things. I do have a history of it. My history was my history. The way that I did it and kind of put it together was a way that was ridiculed as well. Right? It's like, no, this guy needs to be getting this amount of snaps and this amount of snaps, and this guy doesn't need to be getting this amount of snaps. So now you see that there is some power in the balance, because like right now I got on under here, I do have a Sonic and Knuckles t-shirt on. I don't think you don't believe that. A lot of you guys don't believe, but I have one on right now. So there is balance in kind of both of those guys, getting their touches, because David makes Ja better and Ja makes him better.
Talked about, speaking of that, the expectation was like automatically if you give Gibbs more touches, the numbers are just going to maintain. But it's actually his productivity rate has gone down with more touches. Is that kind of, the expectation? In some ways, somewhat of the expectation, and because you're going against more, run fronts, or maybe the situations are more. Geared towards where he's going on first and second down, where, he's going to be facing a little bit more different, fronts, that are more stacked.
I think you answered the question a little bit too, portions of it, but there's also a lot of other factors in, us being jailed from left tackle to right tackle consistently throughout the year. We'll get better with some of his touches, but I do think that there are things that you can do to try to mitigate or slow down, one back or even two backs. And then that's when the pass game comes into it. So sometimes before it was like he, didn't have such a great run game, but maybe he had 40 or 50 yards in the pass game. So it's just more about, for me, it's more about just the touches and his production versus just turning around, handing it to him, or just throwing it to him. But they do work together really, really well. A lot of the times, when somebody's came in and they're running the ball downhill and just downhill, and then Gibbs comes in, and the first thing they think he's going to do is juke, so they slow down and he runs right through them. Those are punches and counter punches. I think that's exactly what they are. We'll do a better job of making sure they come together better.
Ja had 300 or so touches last year. At the end of the season, you feel he was still playing with everything he needed to?
I did. I think, I thought he played, he was continuing to get better, continuing to grow. And it is a process, we all are. We want to play our best in the end, and that's exactly what we're working toward trying to do, and we're figuring some things out. But last year, I did think toward the end he was picking up his pace, and it was a lot of it had to do with David and David playing at such a high level.
This is a league where
through the ups and downs that come on a week-to-week basis just in this game, I guess what has maybe stood out to you about how Dan is able to cultivate buy-in throughout all of that, with the players, also the assistant coaches as well?
Yeah, you say cultivate, great word, because these seeds have been planted a long time ago, right? And there's been a lot of trust that Dan has earned with everybody in the building, and rightfully freaking so. We know exactly who we're dealing with. We know who we have as a coach. But when you talk about our guys, the one point I think a lot of people are missing is this is probably the tightest football team and organization that I've ever been a part of. I see defensive coaches. I see Coach Shep, and he's talking to our O-line or he's talking to our receivers. And I have a great relationship with our defensive secondary and our linebackers and, in our defensive line. It is one of the tightest groups, and that's one of the things that coach has been able to do. We coach them all. Like, if you see something that's going to help one of our players, offensively or defensively, we coach them all, and we get that from coach because he coaches us all. So that's one of the things that he's done. But we know exactly what we have. We love and we respect the way he runs our program and the organization and treats coaches and players. Man, he's the best.
This is a league where it's what have you done for me lately? I think people maybe forgot how good Antoine Winfield was a little bit just because he was banged up last year. No interceptions, no forced fumbles, but it's a first-team All-Pro still. And I'm curious, when you look at the tape of what they do they utilize him in a consistent way, or is he more like Branch? You have to adjust to how he's being utilized week to week to week.
It's going to be week to week. If you've watched Tampa and the way that they play us, Coach has done a really good job of putting 4 straight weeks of something on tape, and then he plays us, and everything is just completely different. So, but going back to Antoine, he's the real deal. He's a problem, not only in the deep third because he can catch the hell out of the ball, but they used him in pressure packages where now he's a problem for our backs trying to, slow him down, especially with the movement skills that he has. He tackles well in the open field. He is definitely a great player. So we're going to have to adjust. There's no doubt about it. And he does have that kind of effect, the BB effect, where even in our off-season, our training, in our off-season, we have a BB rule in the run game that we have to adjust to differently than if there's any other safety playing it. So there are things that we're going to have to do to account for him, no doubt.
Great.
Shaun, you guys have blitzed fewer times, I guess, the last couple of weeks. You also played a lot more zone coverage. How do you think the linebackers have kind of responded to the schematic changes you guys have made?
I think they've responded well. Obviously, that's the thing, like week in, week out, depending on who your opponent is. Sometimes you could want to play man, sometimes you could want to play zone. I think they've been adjusting really, really well. I keep on challenging them to, win their one-on-one. So when we have those opportunities and things like that, especially like everybody knows zone coverage, it's important you win one-on-one, so there's always to be holes in the defense.
Welcome back here at some point. Dan said he'd probably start practicing after the bye. What's the plan to work him back in? You got such a good, deep unit right now. How do you make sure you get him?
I think, obviously the biggest important thing is, that he feels comfortable, and before you just throw him out there in the fire, make sure his legs are up under him. I think it's made a point of emphasis, like even in like meetings and things, to show clips to even build his own confidence in himself, to know that, I am that player. I still am that guy and things like that, because I know, I've been through that process. It's been an up and down road, I'm sure, throughout the recovery process. But we'll see where he is once he gets back and things like that. And it'll be a ramp up plan for him to get back on the field.
The return of Aleem McNeil help your unit out?
Man, he's very ecstatic as a coach to have that guy back. Some of the things that he can do at 300 plus pounds, you're not supposed to be able to do, so he's going to for sure, help affect the quarterback, play the run. It's so many things that guy can do. I'm just glad that he's on our team and not another team.
You can't survive in this league playing just one coverage. You have to play man, you have to play zone, you have to be able to do both. As a former linebacker, what were the biggest challenges of playing those zone coverages, playing in space?
I think the biggest thing, I'm always a big advocate of preaching. Whenever you play zone coverage, especially vision zone, you got to make sure you set with the quarterback. I think that, in the NFL, college football, you got freaks of nature, offensively and defensively. As a linebacker, if you're not set when that quarterback sits, you're going to make yourself have to make an even more harder tackle in space. So, put it in this perspective. You think if you're a linebacker and you're playing zone coverage, and St. Brown runs a check now, and you check the ball down to him, if he's still drifting off in coverage, that's going to be an extremely hard tackle. So, that's what everybody has to make sure they're set with the quarterback to make sure that, okay, you can eliminate any leaky yardage that an offensive player may get.
Shaun, we all know the challenges of trying to stop Patrick Mahomes. How did you feel overall how the linebackers performed, and what areas could they have done better?
Obviously, it wasn't good enough because you didn't get the win. And I'm just going to leave it at that. We can't go back to that game. It's a lot of things that we learned from them. There's some great things that we did. Also some things we can improve on. But obviously, if it's not good enough or we didn't make enough plays to win the game, then I'm going to always say that, okay, it wasn't a good game,
This has been such a strong tackling team this year. Tackling wasn't good enough against Kansas City, and it wasn't limited to your unit. But what does that do in terms of heading into the next week of practice? Do you hammer tackling harder when you have a down week in that way?
Yes. There's a point of emphasis. It starts off with Coach Campbell, starts off with Shep. Football is a game of inches. One missed tackle is the difference between a 3rd and 1 or a 4th and 5, you know what I mean? So that's a point of emphasis always. I think the biggest thing is that, we talk about guys running to the football, so if one guy misses a tackle, it goes from 3rd and 5 to 4th and 5 because you got 11 guys swarming to the ball. So, that's something that we will always, just emphasize, more than ever. I get it, right? It gets later on in the season, and maybe you're not in full pass all the time where guys can actually work on it. But, as coaches, we got to make sure we do a phenomenal job making sure that the players feel our energy where we're finishing and practicing good football positions.
Played the Buccaneers a couple years in a row now. Baker's been there the whole time. Just from year to year, do you see any big differences with him and 3 OCs? So I'm curious if you see a different play style or anything like that.
I think Baker ages like wine, man. I think that's one thing, and I'm sure everybody knows it in this league. Baker has only gotten better and better each year, and I think that one thing, just in life, life is all about adapting to change. So that speaks to that guy that you can go through those different OCs. I remember seeing a stat where he's had so many different offensive coordinators since he's been in this league, and to only get better and better, credit to that guy. So we got a big task at hand this week.
He led the league in interceptions last year. He's got 1 this year, and I think it was on a tipped ball. What do your guys need to do to maybe just put him in some more uncomfortable spots to keep maybe that turnover train running for you guys?
I think the biggest thing is just going to be execution. Whether we're in man coverage, we're in zone coverage. We got to win our one-on-one. So got to be set with the quarterback, not let him exploit the zone, which he's good at finding the zone. He has a big arm, and, he's an aggressive quarterback, not scared to take chances. So we just got to win our one-on-ones.
Going back to the zone coverage, how much is Jack's experience in college? He played in the zone.
Oh, man.
Helpful to make that transition. It's obviously you guys prefer to play man, but,
I don't think it's probably an hour thing. I think half of Jack is a God thing. When you 6'5", 250, I love that dropping in the middle of the field. The wingspan probably go from here to an hour. But you love that. Obviously a guy like Jack who's takes all the coaching points, all those details that helps accelerate him and be even better in zone coverage, helps our entire defense. Because like I said, it's hard when you 6'5", 250 and you got that in the middle of the field. That's going to be difficult for any quarterback getting over the top of that.